1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome. Welcome to is this the last week in August? Is it really? Maybe not. No, it's not. No, it's not. Yeah, one more. We got one more. How you doing? Mondays it's just hard to get moving again, but man, I just want to thank the weather gods for reminding us that what wonderful weather feels like. God, love it. Oh, where you don't have to swim through the air, you know. So enjoy while you can. I understand some of you like hot weather, but not I. So now what are we going to do? The conventions are over. The Olympics are over. There's nothing we all got to absolutely watch, although everybody's telling me I absolutely have to watch something called Stranger Things. Mm-hmm. Have you seen it?
One episode. It's good.
Okay, so I did check it out, and I've now done 2 episodes. It's not my usual thing. I don't like being upset. I don't like being scared. I don't like, but this is very well done, but I don't know. So I'm just telling you, that's the new hot one. The one you gotta see. Okay, I pulled out of the New York Times had one of those big fat filled with 5,000 advertisements, women's style sections or something that came in the Sunday paper yesterday. And I sometimes just sort of page through to see what outrageous things they think we should be wearing. And I came on this, and I don't know why I bothered to read this, but I'm so glad I did. It's just an ad. It's not the kind of ad that would grab your attention, so I don't know why it grabbed mine. And it's an ad for mascara. And it says this: out to their lashes. And then it goes on to a whole bunch of other things. It has vitamins in it and oil and antioxidant packed. And then it says 100% gluten-free. What? Wait a minute. What is this? What is going on? What is going on? Poor gluten. Gluten was minding its own business for literally millennia. Nobody ever said gluten's bad. No one ever said, gluten-free would be a selling point. But I did think it was about things you ingest, right? Pretty soon you'll see furniture that says gluten-free. Telephones that say gluten-free. This mascara is gluten-free. Just want you to know. The hell? He's nuts. People are nuts. So the Saturday front page of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette had a picture of 4 happy people. They got like champagne bottles. The 2 women, 2 men. They look giddy. It looks, and there's streamers behind it. It looks like, definitely Happy New Year. And then it turns out these 4 people are celebrating the fact. Well, they're celebrating what they called historic and momentous. And what it was is that they were about to have a drink of wine bought in a Pennsylvania supermarket. That's what you think is happening. Turns out the champagne was not champagne. It was non-alcoholic because the picture was, get this, I'm getting this from it was non-alcoholic because the press event was outside the boundaries of the little space in the Giant Eagle where all alcohol purchases must be made. This is as absurd as gluten-free mascara. It is absolutely one of a piece. I mean, this is insanity. Every other state in the union, minus 1 or 2. Of course you can buy wine, beer in supermarkets. Jeez. Yeah, you can pick up your gluten-free mascara and a bottle of wine or 2 at a supermarket. And you don't have to, while taking a picture showing you can now buy wine in the supermarket, have to resort to phony wine because you're standing 2 inches from where you have to stand when you're purchasing the wine. God bless them. God bless the Pennsylvania legislature because, you can't make this up. And we're so sort of used to it that I don't know that we react. If somebody were coming in from someplace else, or any of you hearing this who don't live in our fair state, our Commonwealth, it's beyond belief. This is called historic, momentous. And then get this, right after they say, by the way, that's not champagne these guys are holding, because it would be against the law. However, it says that the first supermarket to be able to do this is going to be starting out with 67 different kinds of wine. 67? Are you kidding me? What the hell is that? We got 3 Merlots. You can choose. We got a Syrah, just one, because, then you got like the Meritage or something, and we have to keep space for the whites, the Cabernet, the Pinot Grigio, maybe we'll have 6. I don't know, Chardonnay. What the hell? Oh. It's funny, kinda. Should I revisit my story about my first effort to buy wine in Pittsburgh? Celine, have you ever heard it?
I assume it's the same as mine.
You assume it's the same as yours? I'll put my story up against yours. I really will. I'd been in this fair city for all of 2 days. And definitely needed a bottle of wine. I'm sitting in an empty apartment with boxes and all, and not knowing where anything is. I got no friends here. I got no family here. I'm bewildered and lost. And then it turns out, my brother calls and says that he has an interview at the University of Pittsburgh Law School. They want him. and he's coming in. I said, you got to be kidding me. You mean we can both end up in Pittsburgh? So he was coming in. I was so excited, somebody I knew, and I went to get a bottle of wine for me and some beer for him because he's a beer drinker, okay? I remember as if it were yesterday, I went to the closest Giant Eagle, which was off of Shady Avenue on Shakespeare is what it's called. The Shakespeare Giant. Actually, we now call it the Dirty Bird. Although they're trying to upgrade it a little bit. We call it the Dirty Bird. And it is in a little strip mall, at the end of which is a State store. Which, if you had asked me that day, what is a State store? I would say, a State store? I'd never heard the term, and I didn't know what one was. So I went into the Giant Eagle, and I got whatever food I was getting, and I was looking, up and down aisles. I'm looking for the wine and the beer. Needless to say, I didn't find any. So I asked somebody, I said, where's the beer? And they looked at me like I had just gotten out of Mayview. I said, you can't get beer here. I said, well, you can't? Where's the wine? You can't get wine here. So I checked out and was told by the nice checkout person that a State store was at the end of the little center and you can go in there. Down I went. I walk into this place, and the sight that greets me is so bizarre that to this day I remember sort of feeling panic. I walked in, Celine, you would not have seen this because you're too young. I walked in and was confronted with a counter that ran the entire, you could get into the store about 8 feet, and then there was a counter. So there was, and there were a few bottles of wine on the wall on each side. I thought, this is ridiculous. There's 67 bottles of wine here. I picked one up, and I brought it over to the counter, and I put it down. And the clerk, who emerged from I don't know where, said, put that back. I put it back. I said, I would like a bottle of wine. And it turns out those that were on the wall were like decoration or something. They were like, I don't know, you couldn't take them. You had to tell the clerk what you wanted, and she would disappear into the back, and she came out finally with a bottle of wine. I'm panicking by now. I really am. So I got maybe 2 bottles, thinking I never want to do this again. I got 2 bottles of wine. This is before I turned into a wino. So I'm checking out, and I realize I don't even have a wine. I don't have a corkscrew. Or if I might, but I don't know where the hell it is in all those boxes. So I said, oh, and I need a corkscrew. She said, you can't buy a corkscrew. Needless to say, I'd also asked for beer. She told me, you can't get any beer here. So, I was in I got out of there with my 2 bottles of wine. She did tell me that I had to go to a beer distributor. And she sort of pointed the way to the nearest one. Off I went to the beer distributor. I walked into that lovely establishment and said, I'd like a 6-pack of whatever, Heineken's. The guy said, you can't get a 6-pack here. You feel like you feel like Alice in Wonderland. It was like the craziest thing. I said, but I was told this is where I can get beer. I'm almost in tears now. And he said, you gotta buy a case here. We can't do a 6-pack. I said, but I don't want a case. He said, well, you got to go to a bar. Oh, my God. So, guys, I just have to tell you that, yes, it's better now. It's taken 35 years, and it's much better. But reading this absurd story on the front page of Saturday's paper shows that we are still, this state is stark raving nuts. Nuts. And I had to make another stop to get a corkscrew. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stops. Giant Eagle, State Store, beer distributor, corner bar, and a hardware store or something. I don't know where I got. 5 stops to do what I fully expected to do while I was at the grocery store. And so the first story I did for Channel 4 when I went to work like a few days later was I reenacted my odyssey and ordeal. And to this day, 35 years later, people will still say to me, I remember that hysterical story you did. Because you get beaten down by a system. You fail to even recognize it anymore. Like, I'm perfectly happy with the state stores now. The upgraded ones are fine, whatever. But, jeez. Oh, dear. Government. It doesn't necessarily work very well. So, I don't know what to talk. What do you guys want to talk about? Ryan Locte? Boy, talk about white privilege. Did you see all the hateful crap that came raining down on Gabby Douglas, the gymnast? Black, female. Because when the Star-Spangled Banner was playing during her medal ceremony, she stood at attention. She did not place her hand over her heart. Where is it written? All hell breaks loose on social media. When Locte concocts his story, trying to cover up that he's a drunken 32-year-old, he gets called a kid. He's just a kid, had a little too much to drink. Too much fun, blah, blah, blah. Who can blame him? Yada, yada, yada. Seriously. Unbelievable. And I just want to say to Team USA, great job. It's not a job that's likely to win us any friends in the world. It's, the kind of thing where people who already dislike us will only dislike us more, and even people who do grudgingly like us will like us less because we took more than our share, I don't know. I don't know. I had lots of thoughts about all of it. The women carried the American team, and I must say, I'd like to see the breakdown in terms of black women. Black women, wow, we carried us. We have a call? Mm-hmm. Hello.
I fear you may have already switched topics because I think I was a little behind, still on the liquor store.
That's okay, back to the liquor.
I just wanted to say I only lived a few years outside of the state, but it was in West Virginia where didn't have liquor stores. I don't think there was it was the thing that I fear will happen if you're not in a major city in Pennsylvania, which was if you were out in rural part of the state, you had a choice between basically stuff that bums on the street would drink or college students,
right,
or nothing,
right.
And then the drugstores there would sell, the the standard things like Jim Beam or something like the major brands of stuff. But there was, unless you were in, the handful of major cities in that state, if they can be called that, you had no access to.
I think you've got one major city, don't you? The capital?
I was in Charleston.
Charleston.
And, yeah, there were
there's more
larger
more
liquor stores there that sold stuff. But as soon as you left there, if you went to Huntington or Lewisburg, well, not Lewisburg even, Huntington had a few things. But if you were in Elk Snout, West Virginia, which when I actually did move to Elkins, West Virginia, and there was nothing. You couldn't get anything there. So Pittsburgh will be fine once this all changes. When liquor stores go away someday, all the employees will lose their retirement, and out in rural Pennsylvania, they will have no access to alcohol. That people can think whatever they want about that, I guess, but I don't. I just think it will be that's the way it'll go.
Well, yeah, I am. I'm not. I think the state can run the stores just so they give us good service. And
I just think as it is, even if they don't carry some of this stuff in those rural areas, at least you have access to it. You can still get it shipped there. Whereas what it'll become is you'll have a choice of major brands of liquor, and then that'll be it.
It reminds me of a little snippet I saw the other day in the paper, and it was a picture of a boat, and it turns out it's a U.S. Postal Service boat that plies the Great Lakes. And it turns out that there is a zip code for the Great Lakes, and for merchant ships that ply the Great Lakes, for their crews to be able to get mail, there is a U.S. Postal Service mail boat.
Wow, that's amazing.
Isn't it? But that's, again, the kind of thing where if government does it, they do it for everybody somehow because there's not a profit motive involved. But if the private sector does it, then, whole slews of people will not get any service at all.
That's my only point, and I realize that it has its drawbacks, and they're pretty big. But,
right.
It also has its advantages that nobody ever talks about, one of which being $435 million going into the state budget every year.
That is correct.
Unless maybe somebody's got a way to dispute that number, but...
No, that's right. That's right. And I think you could still have an argument about it. But initially, when I came here, 35 years ago, the system was so absurd it was beyond belief.
Some of that system still exists, and so. But the other thing that was weird in West Virginia was you couldn't get a case of beer anywhere. Nobody sold cases. So if you wanted more than a six-pack,
you had to do a keg.
I don't even know where you could get kegs. There was probably somewhere to get kegs. I don't drink that much beer, so I don't know where that was. I never saw that, but
it's weird.
I'm gonna lose you. So
okay, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Good to hear from you. So, on a slightly more incendiary topic, right next, I just saw it, right next to these four people happily pretending to drink champagne, celebrating the fact that supposedly you can buy champagne, is a story about Donald Trump going after the African-American vote, which he apparently did in a speech in Michigan to some 6,000 supporters, apparently none of whom were black. Maybe, in 6,000, surely one. Maybe? One or two black people might have been in there, I don't know. And so imagine this, he's talking to a white audience, and he's really pretending to talk to a black audience, and this is what he says. Beyond belief. When I read that, I did not watch TV this weekend, any news, for my head. But here I see it in print, and it's unbelievable. So he says to this all-white audience, but yet talking to a black audience, he says, "You live in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. What the hell do you have to lose?" Those are his exact words. That is how Donald Trump goes after the black vote. Vote for me. Look where you are. You got nothing. What do you have to lose? Have you ever in your life heard such an extraordinarily ignorant, condescending, factually incorrect, this is what a racist would say. This is what a clueless person, a racist, a whatever. I'm trying to give him a break. Hillary Clinton, when she heard about it, she used the right word. She says, "It's staggering." It is. It's sort of like you hear it and you want to, you feel like somebody's like pushed you so you lose your balance. Yeah, that's a great way to get blacks to vote for you. You live in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. What the hell do you have to lose? Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Lynn, if you had to point your finger at one thing that the United States has done to the other countries to hate us like they do,
Yeah.
what would you say it is? Why the situation's like it is right now with all this?
Well, it depends on what countries you're talking about.
Just the whole world in general.
Well, the whole world in general, I will say we're hated because we are number one.
Oh, okay.
Everybody hates number one. No, if a country is the biggest, the baddest, the strongest, the one who you look to for help, but you resent, I really think that's where most of the just general animosity toward the United States comes. If I lived in another country, I wouldn't like the United States either. It wouldn't matter where I was living. It was like, I would think this. Who the hell do you think you are? Look at all the problems you guys got. How dare you lord it over us? I can just see where that would be it. Now, if you're talking about the Middle East, there's different reasons. If there's lots of reasons why people wouldn't like us for certain foreign policy actions we've taken. But I just think mostly it doesn't matter what country's on top. The rest of the world hates them. That's just, if not hates, resents. Okay?
Because I just read an article which kind of surprised me, that we have an addiction to mercenaries. And we spend in the physical year, 2014, I think it was, $285 billion on mercenaries, guns for hire, outside contractors, the wage war, the war pigs, as they call them, wanting to wage war behind the scenes. That is unbelievable.
That's disgusting.
And
and we're like the biggest arms merchant in the world, too, I think.
Yeah, when I heard that, I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Because we think all our soldiers are, but they're outside contractors, even in Afghanistan and Iraq.
No, I know, because our volunteer army, ain't enough Americans volunteering to do the kind of, interventions that we seem to have an appetite for doing. We're privatizing. This is, again, Republican politics. You privatize everything.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Yeah.
It's to the point where, you'd say, well, I got to get out of this country, but where would you go? Because we'd be fighting over there, doing something. I don't know. Everything's connected so badly.
Well, it is. It's a small planet now. There ain't no running away.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure somebody else can. I mean, there's a million reasons, depending on what country you live in, why you might resent or hate the United States of America. I mean, Cuba would have a different reason, let's say, than Iraq. But either way, it has to do with us using our sizable power to affect their realities and their countries. And we know we don't like it when other countries do things that impact us. I give you China. We get all, hysterical and upset. Or like the Russians hacking us. Do you think we're not hacking them? I mean, that's where it's all happening now. Talk about mercenaries. Our soldiers are going to just be sitting in front of computer terminals. Noreen, you should get out more. She says, in Seattle, we went into a super Walmart, and they actually sell hard liquor, along with all other alcoholic beverages. That was a real shock for us protected Pennsylvanians. No, I know. Hey, go to a Whole Foods anywhere else, and they've got half the store is a liquor store. Go to Trader Joe's and get what first made them famous, $2 Chuck. Right? $2 Chuck. Wine for $2 a bottle. Yeah, it's a given. Drugstores. Oh man, the rest of the world's living high. And you can see how many more alcoholics all of those states have. How many more drunken drivers all those states have. Jeez. Chuck says, I ordered a case of wine from Napa Valley last week. Yeah, but the laws have changed on that, right? Now you got to pay tax or something, or now you can do it. Previous to the Pennsylvania laws changing, I would order online and have the... Yeah. Okay, so this has just changed. So now you can have the wine delivered to your own home. Prior to that, Chuck said he ordered a case and had it delivered to his brother in West Virginia. And then his brother, being nice, would apparently schlep the wine up to you. You could have gone down and gotten it yourself. And he said, last week I went to the Vineyard's website. I assembled a case, and it permitted me this time to ship it to my house. Used to be if you put Pennsylvania in for this, they'd say, sorry, we cannot complete this transaction. So he says these are the restrictions on direct shipping in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania residents may receive up to 36 cases per year shipped by a wine producer licensed by the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board. Wow. Direct ship wine must be for personal use. Direct shipped wine is subject to state and local sales tax and $2.50 per gallon wine excise tax. Direct wine shippers are required to verify proof of age. And as of August, just this August, direct ship wine need not be wines not otherwise available for sale by the Pittsburgh Liquor Control Board. Oh, so before, if the PCLB had the wine in its stores, they wouldn't allow you to ship it in. Okay, if we start talking about this, my head's going to explode. Ray writes, Lynn, as an Irishman, why do I know where this is going? As an Irishman, I am a whiskey fan, of course. It's a word that comes from the Irish, meaning water of life. Growing up, the state store system would provide little more than an occasional bottle of Jameson as an exotic treat. Our current system has grown to provide a reasonable selection now. If you go to one of the big the biggies, yeah. And I encourage anyone interested in Irish whiskey to pick a bar like the Harp and Fiddle in the Strip or Piper's Pub on Carson and sample some Irish and Scottish imports before actually going out and buying. Plus, it helps during this election, right? Ain't that the truth? I'm serious. I noticed that when I was watching television and like the debates, I was like that's why my tweets, when I was tweeting during the debates, they got pretty ridiculous toward the end. I mean, I was feeling no pain because it's not good for my health. Oh, yeah. So, Larry, thanks. There was this story in the Post-Gazette. Was it last week, Friday maybe, that I was going nuts about this picture of these two girls, freshman girls, somewhere in their dorm room that looked like it had been, decorated by some over-the-top interior designer, and it was about how kids today really expect nice dorm rooms. And he says, there's a story, and it is true. This was in the Philadelphia Inquirer. This is unbelievable. It is about two girls from Penn State. They are seniors. Or they're called, what is that called when you're going to be a senior? A rising senior. And one has actually gone to court, filed a defamation and breach of contract lawsuit in federal court, alleging that the other one and her parents tried to influence the university to bring disciplinary charges against her. And why was all of this going on? Well, here's some of the allegations. Oh, well, I'll go to what the mother said. Here's what the mother of the girl who filed the lawsuit. Let me find it. It is too funny. It is too funny. Okay. Here is the mother of the aggrieved girl telling the court about things that she never saw because she was 4,000 miles away. The kids were in, I think, Spain or something. They'd gone and ended up living together in some place in Spain. And it says this. Ms. Lader, that's the one they're after, Ms. Lader left her daughter behind on a planned trip to Copenhagen. She actively sought to exclude her from conversation and then insisted during a trip to Prague on bringing a boy back to their shared hotel room, forcing Ms. Brownstein to find other accommodations for the night. This is a federal lawsuit. And here's the mother in her words. In the sorority, they're in the same sorority, God, it is generally understood that you do not cross Rachel Lader. Better to pretend to be her friend than be her enemy. The other girls were frankly scared of her. This is the mother writing and as for this horrible Ms. Lader, she says, hey, that boy I brought back to the hotel room, he was a high school friend who had locked himself out of his apartment. Nothing romantic was happening between them, and he slept on a couch. Can you imagine? So here are two seniors. They go away. One of them obviously is unhappy, doesn't like the roommate, is feeling aggrieved, and it ends up being a federal lawsuit. She didn't talk back to me. And she went to Copenhagen without me. And the parents of the one girl are trying to get this other girl knocked out of school. And they apparently are big donors to Penn State, which is why they were listened to. And the other girl was placed on some kind of disciplinary action. And if you start reading this, Dunn, it is beyond, it is beyond belief. U.S. District Judge Timothy Savage has not set a date for hearing on the suit. I hope this judge calls them into his courtroom and just makes mincemeat out of them and throws them and their case out of court. Now, it's often said that some kids today are so, helicoptered and are so needy in terms of their parents that, who doesn't have these kinds of things go on with roommates or this and that? Do you call your mom and dad? You deal with it. That's how people become adults. You deal with troubles. You live with it. Oy. We're going to have so many infantilized adults around in another 10 years. Oy. You read about this, that some parents go with their kids to... They've gone to their kids for interviews? Job interviews? How could you possibly think that that's helpful? So, anyway. Oh, here's the aggrieved one again. Rachel bullied me to the point where I had to leave in the middle of the night in an area where people get stabbed outside my building. Whenever I think about it, it brings me to a full-on terrible place and makes me completely depressed. Well, look. I don't have a clue. Here's my guess. The one girl whose parents are bringing the case is a total train wreck and a disaster. The other one might be a total disaster, too. I don't know. They might... Oh, and here's another thing that she said about her. She's a classic mean girl, a monster, and an expert bully with a PhD in intimidation. Whereas... that young girl painted her roommate, the one who brought the case. She's a coddled whiner, quick to turn to her parents to solve her problems. Well, that seems rather obvious. Yeah. Unbelievable. This all started on a spring trip in Spain and has now escalated to involve Penn State authorities, at multiple lawyers, and a federal judge. Excuse me. Mary writes, I just ordered 2 bottles of wine from Soclolan? I don't know what that is. It is out of stock in the state stores. Even with the shipping, it costs the same as what I would have paid at the state store. Someone has to be over 21 to sign for the delivery. Sales guy I talked to said Massachusetts is the most screwed up state to deliver wine to. Not sure what that entails. Well, I don't know. All right, the walls, when something goes on for as long as the Olympics did and, covering them and stuff, people run out of things to talk about, I guess. They shouldn't, because what we do, we're so America-centric that we don't learn about other countries, whatever, anyway. The Wall Street Journal actually started to break down how many people who won cried when they got their medals? You want to know? 21.6% of gold medalists cried. And that is up from 15% in 2012. A higher percentage, oh my God, a higher percentage of American men cried on the podium than American women did. Isn't that good, Celine? See, that's a sign that we've gotten somewhere. Men feeling free to show emotion, and women feeling free to just look strong.
That word toxic gender roles for you.
However, 83% of Chinese athletes not only sang their national anthem every note, but also not a single Chinese athlete shed a tear. Yeah! Okay. So, I got to share this with you. There was the weirdest story in the New York Times Magazine about a guy. He's actually born in Pennsylvania, in the Appalachian area, it said. It didn't say exactly where. This guy is an entomologist. Entomologist? I get those two mixed up. Which one is the insect one? Etta. Enta? It's enta? Etta is words. What? Enta, it's got to be in this article somewhere. He's the insect kind.
Yeah, entomologist.
Entomologist. And his name is Schmidt. And he's actually world famous for creating what is called the Schmidt pain scale for stinging insects. And this guy has gone all over the world to be stung by every stinging insect he can find. Ants, wasps, bees. Because he says they're not all the same. I mean, and some are toxic, some are just so painful. They're all obviously about telling a predator, us, hey, I might be small, but stay the hell away from me, okay? And I'll just to give you a reminder of why you might want to, bang! So it's a pretty good deterrent, I would think. I have been stung a few times by honeybees and once by a wasp, and I now am so skittish around them because it hurt. The wasp, it hurt like hell. Like hell. So this guy is known as the man who got stung for science. And the thing, he's weird. He is weird. The scale goes from 1 to 4. There's a picture of him holding in a jar a wasp called tarantula hawk wasp. Gets 3 scary things all in its name. Tarantula hawk wasp. And he said this thing is pain level 4. That is the highest. And he says if you ever, but it's not poisonous. He said if you ever get bit by one of these, he said, yeah, first of all, in your head, no, the pain will stop. You're not going to die. And then he suggests you just fall down and scream. Just scream and scream and scream. So, the article, though, goes on to refer to another, I don't know if it's entomologist or just a scholar of some sort. And we need to think about this every once in a while. We who think we're so big and in charge and rule the world And I'm not even talking about Americans. I'm talking about humans, okay? We think we got things down. Here's what this guy says, and this is so true. He's writing about what he calls insects, social insects. So we're talking ants and bees mostly. That social insects ultimately will dominate the world. He says this: although estimates are debatable, E.O. Wilson has calculated the number of ants, just ants, worldwide to be roughly 10,000 trillion. That's 10 to the 16th power. And if you took all the ants in the world and put them in one place, the combined body weight would be equal to that of the combined body weight of all human beings on Earth. And then he says this. This is the line that maybe will enter one of your nightmares tonight. The foreign policy aim of ants can be summed up as follows: restless aggression, territorial conquest, and genocidal annihilation. He goes on to say the human conquest of Earth is a relatively recent and tenuous project. We right now are supposedly in control, yeah. And this guy's saying tenuously in control, and because of global whatever we've done and bombs and atomic this and that, it's a tenuous project and relatively new one. And he says it would be more accurate to say that the planet belongs, as it always has, to the insects. And to be an entomologist is to be a scholar of your own conqueror. Just saying. And then, so I read that, which, I think is a good kind of perspective, put you in your place. And then I see a book that's titled, I Contain Multitudes. And what it is about is all the living stuff in us and on us. And it is mind-blowing. We are essentially in a symbiotic relationship with creatures, living things that we can't see, that we don't acknowledge. If you say bacteria, we all think, stamp it out, blah, blah, blah. No, we would die without it. There's good guys and bad guys. And we don't really have any appreciation for that at all. So listen to this, because I love this. So if the ants are going to take over the world, listen to this. Right now, as you're listening to this, trillions of microbes, quadrillions of viruses are multiplying on your face, on your hands, in your gut. With every breath you take, I'm taking millions of bacteria into my body, and with every exhalation, I am sending millions of bacteria into the air at the rate of about 37 million per hour. So we all have around us an invisible microbial cloud. With every gram of food we eat. We swallow about 1 million microbes more with every gram. We simply, if you can't see it, it's easy to forget. It's there. So this is mind-blowing. According to the latest estimates, and we're learning more and more about this, about half of the cells in your body are not human. So they say, once you realize that, half the cells in my body ain't human, they belong to viruses, microbes, then what does it mean to be you? What does it mean to be you? You can't be you. You are this thing that coexists and cannot exist without all these other living things on you and in you. So it says this: the human cells that make up half of the cells in your body, those came from a single fertilized egg with DNA from your mother and father. Microbes, however, began mingling with those human cells very soon after your gestation, very soon after you started. That which would be you started. They mingled with their human cells before your first breath, before your first taste of milk. And your human cells could not have built a healthy body without unbelievable, intimate help from all those trillions of immigrant microbes, your literal other half. When you eat, so do they. When you travel, they come with you. And when you die, they consume you. I'm just trying to bring us down to earth here. So they're saying some of the most interesting developments in biology today are now us finally getting to understand that we can't live without these little guys, the millions that are in us. You remember when you first learned that there's like what's that bird that like sits atop an elephant? And I remember once seeing a picture, and the elephant likes the bird there because the bird must maybe eat things that would get on him, and the elephant and the bird, it's a symbiotic relationship. But that is so clear. That is visible to our eye. And so when you realize that the way we live, that our whole sense of bacteria is to be antibacterial. All you got to do is go to the store and see antibacterial soaps, antibacterial this, that we want to kill them, we want to keep them out. And that makes sense for the small, tiny percentage of microbes that actually do make us sick. But the vast majority of them make us us. Make us who we are. Allow us to be. And what's so amazing is they're finding out that, okay, the millions of bugs that I have on my right hand, are different species than the number on my left hand. In your right armpit, in your left armpit, because those are different environments, believe it or not. Different creatures live above your gum line in your mouth and below the gum line. Only 1/6 of the bugs on your right palm are the same as the bugs on your left. Human cells and microbial cells are incredibly interdependent because we have evolved together. We provide them their habitat. They provide us their labor. Interesting, huh? So before we get on our high horse, let's just take a moment to remember that half of you, half of me, half of Celine is made up of what we would think of as non-human. But in fact, we would not exist without. Half of the cells in our bodies are not human cells. And while you're remembering that, remember the foreign policy of the ant, which is annihilation of us and domination of the world. And let's stop being so highfalutin, okay? The little guys, the meek, shall inherit the earth. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.